Hello, and welcome to the Living Pain-Free Summit. Holly Hazen's first experience with migraines was over 30 years ago on a roller coaster at Disney World. Thinking it was just from the hot dogs and excitement, little did she know this was the beginning of a lifetime commitment to health and pain management. The next crippling migraine was in 1991 after eating a chocolate bar at work. It hit within the hour and she threw up all the way home. Suffering brutal migraines for 20 days each month persisted for the next 25 years. She also succumbed to fatigue syndrome. Over the years managing migraines and chronic fatigue syndrome, Holly completely switched direction in her career, getting a master's degree in counseling and applied psychotherapy with numerous diplomas, including nutrition, massage, Chinese medicine, and healing modalities. Holly is now a well-rounded and proficient consultant for anyone suffering with chronic pain. It's a pleasure to have Holly Hazen with us today. So welcome, Holly. I appreciate you showing up tonight and giving our listeners your backstory on how your migraine journey took place.
I'm honored to be here, Sherry.
So I guess you had a pretty rough time when you started getting your migraines. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. My migraines started back in 1992, and they didn't stop until about 2 years ago with menopause. So I had them for 20 days each month. And actually, initially, they lasted for 10 days. I had this really strange pattern where it was 10 days on, 3 days off. So it was like 10 days on, 3 days off, 10 days on, 3 days off, 10 days on. It just kept going. It was relentless. So that kind of confused the specialists because it wasn't a common pattern, and it made it really hard to get diagnosed.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think triggered that? Why do you think it was like in that pattern?
Well, look, I always thought they were hormonal, but that pattern doesn't actually prove that to the specialists. But I've proven it to myself now, kind of 26 years later, because they've gone with menopause. So, you know, but it took me like 14 years to find effective pain relief, and that was with the triptan. Probably 5 more years to learn about timing and how to get it right. So I had like 19, I counted them yesterday, 19 failed medication trials. So it was a really long journey. I did not have the information available then.
Right. Is that kind of why you went into this field, to help other people because your journey was so difficult?
Part of it, yeah. I really felt strongly about getting the right information out there, because there's a few things that are that I've only learned in the last maybe 10 years. So I think any person that's kind of newly diagnosed migraine, if I can share some of that, it's gonna cut their journey in half. Hopefully, yes.
Yeah. So what is the one thing that you found helped the most when you were trying to relieve the pain from your migraines?
Okay. The one thing, so besides finding a neurotriptan that worked, I still had a lot of breakthrough pain for a lot of years. And the huge turning point for me was learning about it. And so what I mean by that is learning when I actually needed to take an abortive or take action to stop the migraine progressing to the pain phase. So like I was saying before, I just didn't know anything about migraines back then. You know, I thought they'd go away if I stopped stressing out or if I thought more positively, you know, but that wasn't the case.
And they're probably pretty debilitating, because I mean, your whole probably life stops when all you have is a migraine. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, difficult.
Not for everyone. I mean, there is a spectrum of migraines. Some of them are mild. People can maybe work through a migraine, but they may still have a lot of the symptoms. But for myself, no, they knocked my socks off.
Yeah. Wow. What would you tell somebody new that just got a migraine diagnosis?
Look, I think it's really important to learn about the basics, like what a migraine is and the causes and what to look for and the phases. So it's kind of a lot, but I could summarize it. I can summarize it so that it's a little bit more understandable, but I think it's really important to get across that point of timing, how important timing is. and kind of learning what's going on in your body.
Huh.
The most common thing associated with migraine is pain, but it's not just the pain phase. It's this whole chain of events that occurs. There's bodily involved, like a number of other bodily systems involved, like the stomach and muscles. It's not just the blood vessels. It's not just all in your head. It's kind of like the whole body deals with the migraine.
And how is that different than just a regular headache?
Well, for me, it's about the symptoms that come with the attack. So if you get a headache, you might get some tension and you get the headache. But with the migraine, look, I mean, I could talk about the phases of a migraine. They have different symptoms in each phase. So there's quite a lot to know what to watch for. But yeah, I like understanding the whole process, and then Did you want me to start with that? Do you want me to tell you about the
Yeah, however you want to explain it, to help people that get the migraines, or at least help them figure out, is this a migraine? What can I do? Because a lot of our listeners that have them, we're just trying to find out what can we do for a solution to the pain. So however you want to explain it, that makes sense.
Well, the solution to the pain is like, if I had a solution for that, I'd be a billionaire. Because everyone's so different, right? What works for me might not work for you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, if I wanted to start with the basics, okay, the current evidence suggests that nerve storms are causing the neurological. That's part of what's causing a migraine. So more specifically, there's inflammatory chemicals that get released and circulate around the nerves and the blood vessels in the head. And this causes excitation and then the excruciating pain and the symptoms. So basically you have a trigger that causes some kind of chain reaction of events, right? And then the overexcitation works on your nervous system, and then it causes symptoms, and then it just keeps escalating. So the head pain is actually the third phase of the entire episode. Okay, so if I were to break it down just to make it really simple, okay, so it would start with a trigger. It could be any trigger. It could be food or food allergies or any other allergy. It could be weather changes, or for me it was hormonal changes. It could be an external stimulus like smoke or perfume. Perfume is an instant migraine trigger for me. Now the tricky part is that it can be any one trigger, or it can be an accumulation of triggers. So this trigger then starts this spreading excitation in the body. So it's also called spreading depression or nerve storm. I like that storm. It gives me more, I don't know, it makes me feel better that it's not me causing the migraine. It's actually something happening in my body. So that's kind of explained as this wave that slowly spreads across the outer cortex of the brain. And there's this electrical charge that's carried by brain neurons, and they send signals to other brain neurons during normal brain activity, right? But with a migraine, they rapidly discharge. So their electrical charge is rapidly sent off through negative ions. So this is the part that's considered a dysfunction. Now that's really complicated, and I like to keep things simple, but if you just think of it as like this overactive reaction in our brain and nervous system, that causes like an overexcitement. The chemical brain messengers get unbalanced. There's a disturbed blood flow to the brain. It causes the blood vessels to constrict and then dilate, right? So this overstimulates the nerves in the brain. I told you it was complicated. And then the pain signal, there's like a pain feedback loop, right? So the top of the brain feeds back information to the stem, and the cycle just continues. So I think it's important to understand that 4 phases. So I think the problem with this is that so much of it goes on without us knowing about it until we actually get a symptom. Like a lot of this stuff happens with triggers, and everything starts happening before we become aware of it.
Is there an easy way for people to figure out what their personal trigger is? Like you said, for you, it's perfume. So do people can they figure out what their trigger is and kind of like stay away from that?
Oh, look, I wish it were that simple.
Okay.
Perfume's only one of my triggers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only one. One I know that's clear because I haven't had a migraine for about 2 years. Last year I had a friend stay and she put perfume on, and I had 18 migraines. It took over 2 months to recover from that one little episode.
So she's probably not staying with you
perfume. Sorry?
I said she's probably not staying with you too often anymore, right?
No. I don't think we'll have guests anymore. No. Yeah, triggers are tricky because they differ for me. And like I said, they can accumulate.
Yeah.
So, with the exception of trigger, you might say be around people that smoke, and that might be a trigger for you, but your body's not, cope with that one. And then maybe you're stressed at work, maybe you get into a fight with a colleague or something happens. It can really accumulate, and it makes it really hard to distinguish which exact trigger.
Yeah. Are there certain foods that kind of trigger people, or is it just really dependent on you and your personal body chemistry?
Yeah, look, that's an interesting concept, food triggers. How about can we get to food triggers, because that's an interesting concept. I'm wondering if I might just go through.
Yes, please.
Some of the like, just do the phases to get through the kind of real basics. We can tell you this stuff.
Okay.
Because if I tell you now, you won't understand it because it kind of relates to the phases.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you it was complicated.
That's okay. We're just kind of winging it here. I don't know what I'm asking. I'm just trying to.
No, it's fine. Well, it's fine. Like, if you don't. The interesting thing is, if you don't get migraines, you don't know. But it also, for me, I didn't know any of this for at least 15 years. I just didn't even think to research migraine. I just got diagnosed and I did what I could to cope, Yeah. But now there's so much information on the internet. Doctors are more aware of the migraine epidemic, really.
Right.
I mean, millions are suffering. So, yeah.
Wow.
But so you asked me before about how to tell. So here's what to watch for to help you figure out if it is really a migraine. Okay, I'll give you some, they call them features. So the International Headache Society defines migraine attacks as having at least 2 of these 4 features. I'm trying to make sure how I remember them all. So one of them's pain affecting one side of the head, pulsating in quality, moderate to intensity, so they're not kind of just a mild thing you take an aspirin for, and they're aggravated by exertion, and they're accompanied by nausea, with or without vomiting, and a sensitivity to light, sound, or smell. Wow. So headaches typically, like, this is a real key difference for me between migraines and headaches, because headaches aren't normally accompanied by this host of symptoms. I mean, I got a host of symptoms. I didn't just get one. There were all sorts of things happening. Like, my migraines were mostly right-sided, but my face would swell so much that my eye would swell shut. Oh, wow. So, and back then I used to be able to use a short black coffee to abort the attack. And that worked well for a couple of years until I became addicted. so there's a good tip. There's a good tip there to use coffee to abort an attack, because it will work for you if you don't drink it every day. Yeah, if you drink it every day, it's not going to work. You kind of have to use medicinal.
Kind of use it as a treatment versus just a maintenance type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I think it's really important to just understand a little bit about the 4 phases, and then that'll tie in with the food allergies and stuff, food reactions. So I think it's really, really important to learn about the 4 phases. This is something I really have just come to understand in the last few years. So the pain phase is the one we're most familiar with, and that's this. But I think the most important phase is the prodrome. So the prodrome symptoms can occur hours or days. For me, it was about 3 days before the migraine episode. Now, if you can learn to identify your symptoms in this phase, this will provide you with an early warning signal that a migraine's on its way. So
Wow.
this is a phase, like when I talk about timing, this is a phase you want to take action in to abort the attack. Like waiting until the pain phase is too late. So if you wait till you have the headache to take something, you're too late. You're not going to get your most effective pain relief.
Right.
And if you're going to do something alternative, this is when you need to act. So I want to read out a list of symptoms just because I think this is so important. I don't want to forget any.
Okay.
But so this is the very first phase of the migraine. Now, one thing that's not that commonly listed is, for myself, I used to get really angry or cry. So emotional extremes are important.
That you're not used to having.
You have no reason to be crying or no reason to be angry. It just happens. Yeah.
Right.
And I can explain that. So irritability and depression, familiar ones like sensitivity to light and smells and sounds and nausea. Those are commonly known. But there's things like poor concentration and extreme fatigue and muscle stiffness, difficulty in speaking or reading, like just not comprehending what you're reading, difficulty in sleeping, excessive yawning, an increased need to urinate, and food cravings. So this is where I wanted to say about the foods. This fascinates me. So cravings come in the first phase of your migraine attack. Now, a lot of people blame chocolate for being a migraine trigger, but you might crave the chocolate after the migraine's already started. So chocolate's not the trigger. You actually have to go back further in time to discover your real trigger. Right? So a lot of people will crave sweet or salt or carbohydrates. Right. So it's not just chocolate. So when you ask about food, it feels quite a complicated answer. Right. You know, there's a list of common migraine triggers. So it's tricky.
And it's hard because, like, I mean, when it's relating to like perfume, just stay away from that type of perfume. But when it's food, you eat so much different variety during the day that you'd almost have to like really focus on, okay, I'm not going to eat any of this today for a week to see, I mean, there's just so much that you consume every day that I would think that would be very difficult to diagnose which is the trigger on food. That's why I was wondering is there like certain things like that are more acidy or more carbohydrate, or that's why I wondered on that. Is there certain types of food that are worse when you get migraines?
Yeah, well, carbohydrates are kind of a known trigger. I really only just discovered that, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I just never even thought of it. But carbohydrates create a lot of sugar in the body. So if you can lean towards a low carb diet, those things might benefit you. Ketogenic diet is neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory. So those might be something to look into as far as prevention goes. We could have a whole webinar on food. I am such a foodie. And the other thing I think with food is it's tricky because if you do have a slight allergy or sensitivity, there's elimination diets you can do that is debatable if it kind of makes you more sensitive to the food or not, but we won't go there. But it can take up to 4 days. So you really need to just test one thing a week. Right. I know it's really tricky.
I know gluten is really like a hot topic nowadays. Does gluten have any factor in that at all?
I think it can. I think gluten, I'm gluten intolerant myself. I'm not celiac. But I had an experience. I also got chronic fatigue in 2005 and was bedridden for about 4 years. Wow. And one of my, when I finally found a doctor who could kind of work with me on the natural side of things, because I lean towards like Chinese medicine and herbs and stuff like that. She said to me, get off gluten, and did a blood test. And when I came back, she said, your blood marker is right at the top. Like it's right at the top. This should have been flagged years ago. But in 1 week, I was able to get out of bed.
Wow.
I don't know that I can contribute gluten to migraines as such.
Okay.
But if your body is sensitive to anything, it can be any food. Gluten is particularly problematic, in my opinion, for lots of levels. Like I said, we could do a whole hour talk on food, I think. Or maybe we could come back and do one. I think it's worth investigating. I really do.
Yeah.
Because that could be an accumulated trigger
yeah.
for you. It might not be the trigger that sends you into full-blown attack, but it could be one that is contributing to the stress on your body that's reducing all your resources to fight or keep you protected from the migraine attack.
Yeah. Is there any kind of natural forms of pain relief that you could use for your migraines that you find are extremely helpful?
Definitely. Well, there are some foods we can talk about too, but I'll just tell you, one of the best treatments I've found to treat an acute migraine attack, was so that's when you're in it. So it's not prevention, it's when you're in it. Was from Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's a migraine sufferer herself. So she method, there's only 4 steps. And she uses it to abort attacks without medications. So her treatment strategy involves using ice and heat at the same time. So it's really quite simple, but so number 1, you need to take action at the first sign of neurological disturbance. So that's like the prodrome we were talking about.
Right.
The neurological disturbance is usually considered the aura phase. There's a little bit of debate between that. There's a 20-minute window that you really have action to effectively abort your attack. That's why I wanted to mention that prodrome phase, because it's absolutely essential to know that. Because a lot of people wait till the head pain starts before they do anything. Yeah. And that's not the time. The time
is it easy to figure out when that little span of time is? No?
Not really, no. Not until you're able to manage the pain phase and kind of step back.
Okay.
There's also something else that's interesting there is that if you're used with migraines and you take action and get on top of it and see, learn these things that you and I are talking about, you may have an easier time of aborting the attacks and figuring out the symptoms and finding your 20-minute window. It might come easy, but for myself, because it was years before even getting a diagnosis,
right?
And 14 years before finding any medication that it gets ingrained. The pattern gets ingrained. Yeah, it's important to take action if you think you have migraines. Get it diagnosed.
Well, that's why I'm so excited for you to be on here, because you're educating people so they can find a solution and kind of know when things are happening.
Yeah. Well, that's. I wish I knew this 26 years ago.
I know.
I wish I knew this method 26 years ago, using the ice and the heat at the same time. It shifted things for me substantially. One of the symptoms of migraine is I used to turn into an icicle, with my hands, my feet. I'd be shivering. And I'd use a hot water bottle on my head. Well, you can't do that. It's the wrong action. You need to stop the blood vessels from constricting and dilating. So going back to Dr. Northrup's ice and heat pain treatment, I think this is essential in that. So after the first symptom you have, the first little niggling, and put ice behind your neck. It's absolutely essential that you use ice and you keep your hands warm. So hot water bottle on your stomach, maybe putting your hands underneath and keeping your feet warm. So that's all there is to it.
Wow.
Cold head, warm body, but you have to act fast. So she says that the cooling of the blood traveling to the brain through the neck and warming your hands at the same time, it actually stops the vasoconstriction and then the rebound vasodilatation that causes the head pain. But you have to act at that first sign. It's like timing. It's all about timing.
Sorry. Interesting.
I'm a bit passionate about that.
how long do you have to stay in that hot, cold state for it to really take effect? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half hour? Is there a certain time frame?
As long as it takes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's everybody has a different length of time that it takes to get to the next phase. So
Right.
some people, they call it a slow onset. So mine are really slow onset. Some people are really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends how long it takes you to get there. You know, I could lie around for 3 days. The thing is, if you can act fast enough, it should be fairly short term. You may still lose like 4 hours or a day, but if you're going to abort it from progressing, then it might be a very short period of time. It really depends how fast you can act. You know, if you're at work, it's pretty hard to do those things. To go lie down, and I'll be back in an hour.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Is this a method that you could possibly just do every night just to prevent it? No? Still look at that little time frame of window, huh?
Yeah, well, you could. You could. It's actually for an acute treatment.
Okay.
If you were going to look at drug-free options for prevention, I think I'd look, there's quite a few things you can consider, like there's electrical devices like the Cephalay machine or the gamma core device. They're a bit pricey, but at least they're drug-free options. Sleeping is another thing that can really help with migraine attacks. And I know this isn't always possible either, like we mentioned, you know, if you're at work, but if you can try to get home or just find somewhere in a dark room and rest, and if you can sleep it off, that might really be beneficial.
I would think it would be pretty difficult, though, to really fall asleep and get a good solid night's rest if you have a throbbing migraine. I don't know.
Some people can't sleep at all with a migraine. For myself, the pain was so intense, I passed out for days.
Wow.
Yeah, those 10 days, when I was having them for 10 days, yeah, might be knocked out. Yeah.
So have you got yours pretty under control now?
Well, I haven't, they kind of stopped occurring about 2 years ago with menopause, other than the little perfume incident last year. Oh, that was like torture, going back to the torture chamber. Yeah, that took a few months. But yeah, I'd like to say I have them under control. I still wear my migraine tinted lenses. You know, I still take care outside. So it's sunny. Well, it's been raining for 3 weeks, but it's normally quite sunny. So very protective of the, you know, the migraine trigger that can come from too much light.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have any kind of like supplement advice as far as what supplements might help?
I do have lots of, that's another whole webinar. Before I do that, can I mention 3 foods that are really good for acute?
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah, because we were talking about foods too, and they just dawned on me. So the short black coffee is one to really try.
Okay.
If you drink it every day, and you know you can get quite bad withdrawal headaches that can turn into migraines if you go off it. But it's worth going off it and seeing where your migraines are at, and then just using that like a medication, like a short black or maybe 2 short blacks. Because that caffeine can quite, again, if you act early enough.
Right.
Yeah, for a symptom. Yeah. And the other one I've been having really, really good results with is powdered ginger. So again, we're talking about some people, some of my clients have been having such good results, they are using it every morning for prevention. So that's kind of, I think, for everyone to play with. But there were studies.
How do you use the powdered ginger? Do you put it in?
Yep. I just throw it in water and drink it, but it's quite hot. The studies were done with a whole teaspoon of ginger powder, and they proved as effective as the abortive medication sumatriptan. I mean, to me, that's huge. That's stopping the pain attack. So a whole teaspoon's like, it's way too hot. I don't know if you ever tried powdered ginger, but it's like, burns your throat, and it can cause some digestive
I'm not a big
issues.
ginger fan anyway, so I would struggle, you know.
Yeah. Well, look, if you get migraines and this gets the pain, you just do it.
That is true. That is true.
But because it's so hot, you could start with like 1/8 of a teaspoon just in a bit of water, but I'm guessing that 1/4 or half would be more effective. And what you can do is take that at your first niggling, your first symptom, and then every 20 minutes, if you're not getting a relief or a shift, take some more. So the studies were done with a whole teaspoon. So you can very safely do 4 doses. You know, if you're doing half, do 4 or 5 doses. It's not going to hurt other than be very hot.
Is there a capsule form though you can take of that?
Yeah,
for people that are like me that don't like the ginger, you can just take that capsule and be done.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some really good combination products. I'll mention for the supplements. There's a couple of good. They're on my list of supplements, so I'll mention those.
Okay.
And the third thing that I absolutely love is using omaboshi plum. I trained for years in Chinese medicine, and this is like just a common thing that you do when you get a migraine headache. Omaboshi plums like neutralize extremes, and it's a similar thing. You just eat 1/4 of 1 ounce, and it's again important to take it right at the onset.
Yeah.
To get the best results, right? And it's kind of salty and sour. It's really strong. But I think because it's so salty and salt constricts, that might explain why it works for migraines. But those are 3 foods you can experiment with. I really think they're worth trying. And supplements.
Before you go on, that last food, where do you buy that? Like at a Whole Foods type place or vitamins?
A lot of places carry. Yeah, a lot of places carry umeboshi plum. You can get it on Amazon.
Okay. Okay, good.
We can set up a link for people if they don't want to, so we don't have to spell it.
Okay. Because I don't have migraines, you know, it's just an unfamiliar food for me. So I just wondered if you got it.
Yeah, umeboshi plums are unfamiliar for a lot of people unless you study Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm a real big fan of. Well, actually, probably one of the first things I tried to help abort the migraines. Or manage them. So yeah, I just kind of got pulled in a Chinese direction. So yeah.
Hey, you know what? A lot of
food is medicine.
Work.
Yeah, and it's food is medicine as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Which is why I try the ginger powder instead of ginger capsules.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I go for the food first. But as far as supplements go, there are lots that people recommend for migraines, but there are really only a few that have really good evidence behind them. And I think out of all my years, I've tried all of these things, but now I lean towards the things with evidence, you know, with duplicated results, because it just gets too expensive.
Yeah.
Seriously. So the top 3, I can talk about 5 or 6, but the top 3 that have really good evidence behind them are butterbur, magnesium, and vitamin B2, the riboflavin. Now, say good evidence. The American Academy of Neurology recently published guidelines on drugs and natural products, that were useful in migraine prevention. And butterbur was in the same category of effectiveness as the best prescription drugs. Now, they didn't say which ones, but I'm guessing it had to be one of the triptans. And they tested a supplement called Petadolix. So that's an extract of the butterbur plant. And you have to butterbur because if the extraction's not done right, there can be toxic alkaloids in it. So Petadolix is actually a brand, and I'm big on brands. And the most effective dose, there's been a few studies. I dug into one just for us to talk. There was a 4-month study with 245 migraine sufferers. Now, some of the studies I dig into are quite small, but this one was quite good. 245 migraine sufferers, and it was over 4 months. And they found that their frequency of attacks reduced 8%.
Was how much?
68.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I trialed Butterbur for about 2 years. So um, anyway, so the dose there is 75 milligrams twice a day.
Okay.
And, but again, you have to be really careful with the brand.
Yeah.
So Petadolex, yeah, I think that's probably another good one we should give a link for. And then B2 magnesium were also published in the American Academy of Neurology guidelines. Now, I don't know if you know about magnesium, but it's like the second most abundant mineral in our cells.
Wow.
So not just in our body, but actually in our most likely mineral for us migraine sufferers to be deficient in.
Really?
So, and it helps, it's huge. It helps the body regulate over 325 enzymes. And it plays a vital role in organizing important body functions like muscle control and, for us, the electrical impulses in the body. So it's important to calm our electrical storm, right?
Right.
Well, and so the recommended dose for magnesium milligrams twice a day. And it might take, the thing with supplements is it might take a few months to see results.
Right, because it's got to get built up in your body and all that.
Yeah.
You were kind of cutting out when you said the milligrams of the magnesium.
Oh, it was 200 milligrams twice a day.
Okay. Okay, good.
So 400 milligrams in divided doses, yeah.
Okay.
So they've had quite a few double-blind studies that are proving magnesium to be quite effective for migraine prevention. But I need to highlight a few things around magnesium because I don't know how many forms. I've got 3 here, just, you know,
wow.
There must be about 12 different forms, and some cause cramps and diarrhea. And the other thing that's really important is a lot of migraineurs struggle with digestion because the stomach slows down to deal with the migraine. So how you digest it's important. Sorry, I hope this isn't boring.
No,
okay, so capsules or powder to me work much better than any kind of hooded tablet. So that's just like Holly's helpful hints. So glycinate's one of the best forms to take if you get migraines. It's the one that's most prescribed, the glycinate. But the other two I want to mention are malate and threonate. So, and this is really important because you might get a lot better results with one of the other ones. So if we start with magnesium glycinate, it's the one that's most commonly prescribed. And it's one of the most bioavailable magnesium. So that means it's easy to absorb and easy to digest. Okay, and it's the least likely one to cause diarrhea. And then magnesium malate, I discovered about, 10 years ago. This one's become my first choice by far because it's got a combination of magnesium with malic acid. And malic acid's naturally found in like apples and pears and tomatoes and cherries, and it really reduces physical pain. I used it for fibromyalgia. It's never come back. Like, there's no guarantees for anybody else out there with fibro, but you know, it really increases energy and reduces pain. So I like the double whammy. If you do get diarrhea with this one, though, maybe just reduce the dose or go back to the glycinate because that one's it's got the least causes the least amount of problems in the digestive intestine. Sorry, and then threonate. I hope this one's been studied more recently, and it's actually being used to promote brain health.
Can you say the name of that one again?
Yeah, so magnesium threonate. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a good brand. This is Life Extension Neuromag. Okay. And that's an L-threonate. And so that one's, you know, they're doing research on these things, and they're finding that it's promoting brain health. So for me, it's just another bonus, right? So it's also enhancing memory and cognitive function, which can be a real struggle for migraineurs. So I think this is just a third option, you know, if you want to test it out, if you're not really getting the results from the glycinate, which is really widely prescribed. So, and the other one is vitamin B2, riboflavin. That's the recommended dose for that one's also 200 milligrams a day. And there's a newer form of a bioactive riboflavin 5-phosphate. I never say that right. I can say R5P much easier.
Yeah.
But B2, I think, is essential for migraineurs. Look, it has a whole host of things that it does in the body, but more particular for us migraineurs, it helps with the production and regulation of certain hormones. So if you get hormonal migraines, B2 might be worth a try. The other two I want to mention are feverfew and coenzyme Q10. So a lot of my clients are getting really good results with feverfew. I was allergic to it, so I never really got to test it. But as far as the evidence goes, it's really mixed. It's got really mixed evidence from studies, and it's got inconsistent results. So, and the quality varies quite a bit. There's some difficulty around standardizing the active ingredient, but the bonus is that it does have anti-inflammatory properties, and it has actually been used for like centuries for headache relief. The Greeks were using feverfew, but then they used to drill holes in our skulls too. Yeah. So anyway, we won't go there. But the recommended dose for feverfew is 100 milligrams 4 times a day.
Do you recommend using all the ones that you've been talking about? Is this something you would use most of these, or just try 1 or 2, or?
I've tried all of them
at the same time.
I've tried all of them. I would lean to it. There's a couple of really good combination products. There's one called Migraine, and it's got butterbur, B2, magnesium, and CoQ10 in it. Okay. There's another one that's got riboflavin with the active B2, the R5P, butterbur, and ginger. If you want to try some of that, that's fantastic.
I think our video's cutting out a little bit.
The next person. And I need to kind of experiment with doses. So a combination product doesn't do that. So I do tend to just try one at a time and see how it goes. For up to 3 months, really. It's a really long, drawn-out thing to trial supplements. I didn't do it that way. I just took a whole bunch all at once because I was desperate.
But then you didn't really know which ones worked.
Well, I did in the end because I went off everything and just started one at a time. But and unfortunately, just none of them worked. Nothing worked for me, sadly. But I took riboflavin B2 until my skin turned orange.
Wow.
For about 18 months. And the doctor went, okay, I think you can stop taking that now. I'm thinking, really? You think? So,
this is an odd question, but just out of curiosity, as you're talking about migraines and stuff, it almost seems like a predominantly female condition. I mean, unless guys just don't complain about migraines. Do guys get migraines too, or is it mostly a female condition?
Yeah, men get migraines as well, but it is mostly female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just never thought of hearing a guy complain about migraines, so I just wondered. Curiosity question.
Men get migraines too. Unfortunately, men get cluster headaches more than women. They are nasty clusters. I had clusters for about 4 years, and thank goodness they went away. I don't know what shifted them, but they were nasty. And kids get migraines. Babies get migraines. Little ones. Yeah. But predominantly female.
Yeah.
But we're still, even with the statistics, we're still talking hundreds of men. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might be 2/3 women, but that 1/3 is still, the populations are huge now. So they're not small numbers. It's not a small number of men suffering. There's a large number of men suffering.
So you actually have a website, right? The Savvy Migraine or Migraine?
Migraine Savvy, yeah.
Okay. Is a lot of the stuff you've been talking about, the supplements and all of that, is that listed on your website? Because you went over a lot of stuff, so if our listeners were not taking notes, is that something they can go to your website and find the information?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think what I'll do is I'll have a page just for you guys and your listeners, and direct them towards my free gift, and I'll just have the links underneath.
Oh, that would be
to
great.
Everything we've been talking about, because my website's huge now, so it'd be a little bit hard to find their way around. So does that sound like a good idea?
That is awesome. That's amazing. And then it will, because they're going to go log in hopefully to get their free gift, and then all the information will be on one page.
Yeah.
So that would be great. And speaking of free gift, what is it you've got for our listeners today?
Well, I've got a 5-week free course, and it's all about natural supplements. And natural solutions.
Awesome.
So it'll clarify a little bit more. I know I went a bit fast over like some migraine and how to tell if it's a migraine or a headache. And just kind of working its way through to some of the natural supplements that work, the ones that have a bit of evidence behind them. I do have a course. I have a migraine pain management course.
Okay. Oh, good.
The whole first module is free.
Okay.
So again, and it's about timing and stuff. I just think this stuff's so important. I just want to get it.
It's very important. And that's very generous, and it's going to be so helpful for people because you gave us a lot of good information. And like I said, that page leading to the free gift and all the information is going to be incredible.
Oh, great.
So I so much appreciate you being here and helping everybody and giving everybody the tips that they can try right now at home. The heat and cold, that was a great concept that they can try, and then all the supplements and all of that. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up?
Oh, I do have just a couple more things. So I always say never underestimate the importance of lifestyle choices. So being prepared, maybe keep a migraine journal, keep notes for your doctor so you can answer specific questions. And not just a food list, like keep track of what you did 3 days, over the last 3 days, or if anybody upset you. Maybe keep track of whether you missed a meal or had a bad night's sleep, stuff like that. There's good apps out actually that can help you keep track for migraine. So, and I think another one that's really important is keeping routines. Keeping routines can really help you with migraine prevention, like sleeping, eating, regular exercise, that kind of thing. So, but being prepared ahead of time, is going to be learning that early warning signal, and then have a little like migraine care kit ready. Yeah. With an eye bag or whatever your sensitivities are, earplugs if you're sensitive to noise, or whatever. Just have a little care kit for yourself, and make sure you take action right at the beginning. So plan ahead. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, keeping a journal, because when that headache hits, the doctor's going to say what kind of happened. And, if you don't have recording of that, then it's really hard to determine. So, I know it's a little bit of work for them to do that, but it will pay off in the long run if you want to figure out the real, trigger. Yeah. And even if you're kind of in the migraine, if you can barely write, just write down some of the symptoms that you're experiencing. That'll help the doctor get the diagnosis clearer. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Holly. It was nice to have you. And thank you for your free gift. And then let me know the link for that page, and we'll get that out to all the listeners. Oh, fantastic. Thank you for having me. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thanks, Sherry.